Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Collab Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about decks that I cannot put down no matter what. So you'll see there's a bit of a mix between oracle decks and tarot decks, and there's, let's say, older kind of decks when it comes to the order in which they came into my collection, but also older kind of decks when it comes to the year in which they've been released. But there's also new ones, whether it's new ones, new releases, or new to my collection. And the reason why there is this diversity in my choices is because I really believe in falling in love at first sight. And you know, sometimes when you fall in love at first sight, you actually build on that love and it evolves and it matures, you mature with it. And some other times you just, you know, you feel like the feelings you have for someone or something actually fade a little bit, and perhaps you fall out of love. But right now, at this moment in time, there are at least about 10 decks that I really cannot put down. And so while choosing them, I ask myself, okay, but do I believe that I will still not be able to put them down 10 months from now or 2 years from now? I don't know that. And if I try to answer the question, I know that I will be lying to myself. So I just decided to live in the moment, at least for, you know, for now, and just show you these decks. So let's start. And one is a fantastic deck. Sorry, let me just flip this around. It's called Les Oracles de la Sorcière. Now, this is the French version of an Italian deck by Fabiano Centini and Massimo Alfaioli. The Italian version has been published by De Vecchi, and it's called Lo Scrigno degli Oracoli, and I know that it's available to Amazon, let's say, to different countries, because I know, hearing from your comments both here and on Instagram, that you purchased this deck and you loved it. There's a couple of things that I have to say. The Italian version is gorgeous, absolutely, but it is very large. And so much so that I cannot actually handle it. So when I was in Paris, I saw that they had a French version of this deck, which has been published by Grimaud. And it's a fantastic size, I would say practically standard. Let me just compare the cards. What I do like about this deck, on top of the fact that I can actually admire the artwork and at the same time use the deck, which, you know, it's something important if you don't just stop at collecting something. So it comes with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 additional cards, and in these cards you've got a few, well, presentation cards, fair enough, of course, but, and a little bit of description and talk about the illustrator and the creator, the writer of the deck. Then you've got these cards that are about, let's say, the explanation of the keywords, you know, of the cards, front and back. And then front and back as well, you've got these cards, 5 cards, where you can find really cool spreads that have been designed specifically with this deck, or these decks I should say, because it's actually composed of 3 different decks in mind. What I like about this deck compared to the Italian version, as I said, it's the cardstock, it's the format, the size and everything. The cardstock as well, because it's slightly, how should I put it? I think it's thinner. Okay, I don't know specifically the grammage, but it is thinner. But other than that, they've done a magnificent work when it comes to reducing the images and, you know, and finding a way to express everything that there was in the original really large size into a smaller size as well. And that's been done for the love of readers, because there's no other explanation. I strongly believe that this deck is absolutely fantastic. It deserves to be used. It's one of the decks that really needs to be used. But because of its size, I've heard from many people that the Italian version is just laying on the shelves, not being used because it is too big. So I love that Grimaud has actually come out with this version. And it's got, as I said before, it's composed of 3 decks. You can tell by the different backings. So this one is the Oracle of the Witches. This is the Oracle of the Gods, I think. Let me just double check. Yes, it's the Oracle of the Gods and Goddesses. And this is the Oracle of the Cats. And of course there had to be a cat, you know, because I really, really love when I can see kittens, cute cats on Oracle or Tarot cards. So this is one of those decks that I really cannot put down. First of all, what I did was I actually tried each and every one of these spreads, and I had such a fun time doing that. Now it is in French, so particularly when it comes to the spreads, you might actually need a little bit of translation. But I can assure you 1000%, perhaps this one is the most complex one, as you can see. It does have 12 cards. However, I find that it's not too weird when you use Google Translate to translate the prompts, possibly because they are shorter sentences and it's not a long paragraph that you have to translate, and sometimes, but it's also because I believe that AI is getting better when it comes to specifically the fields of translation. So it is very, very usable. I can assure you 1000%. It's also very affordable. I, however, do not know, let's say I'm not sure that you can get it on Amazon US, for example. I know that you can find it on Amazon France. I don't know whether you will probably have to pay for the shipping cost. I did find it in a bookstore, so I didn't have the opportunity to check that out. So this deck, just to show you the cards, is really fantastic. So obviously you've got the keywords at the bottom. You have some keywords when it comes to the you know, the explanation cards, etc. The images are very beautiful. The color palette is very, let's say, not limited in the sense that, not limited in a bad way. It's limited because it's chosen. There's not much shading, so obviously the colors really stand out one next to the other. And they stand out in a good way because they actually complement each other, which is really, really nice. I do have the feeling that these 3 oracles put together have a distinct feeling to them. So you don't have the risk of having repetitions, you know, in the cards, like duplicates, perhaps in one or the other. In particular, my favorite, but that's just me and it's personal, is the oracle that looks at all the sorcières, so the witches, because I believe that it's got the best aesthetics, probably. And it's also because it feels like it's the most complete one. When it comes to the Oracle of Cats, obviously it's adorable, but it's, you know, it's a very narrowed down kind of theme. So if you're looking for something more, you know, versatile, obviously the Witch's Oracle is better. And when it comes to the Oracle of the Gods and Goddesses, I have to say, the color palette, I don't know why, but it's slightly different. I don't know if you can tell. It is a bit paler in comparison to the other cards, and this feels almost as if it was actually not belonging to the same deck, which puts me off a little bit, but it is perfectly fine. And it is very interesting to read the associations of the writer, chosen by the writer, with the with each and every one of the gods and goddesses. So this deck, as I said, really cannot put it down no matter what. It's one of those decks that I really hope I will be using in a year's time, in 10 years' time. whenever, because it really gives you an additional layer of interpretation, but it also gives you the pleasure of, you know, looking at really, really beautiful cards. See, sorry, I just wanted to show you, see how even when you fan the deck out like that, the first and the second one, so the cats and the witches, are kind of belonging to each other. It's not, we don't really notice differences, but when it comes to the color palette of the gods and goddesses, it really is different. It's just an observation. I don't really mind it. It's just, you know, to point that out. So decks that I cannot put down no matter what. This is the first one. It's, let's say the name in Italian is Lo scrigno degli oracoli, but the name in French is, where is the, okay, Les oracles de la sorcière. The second deck, and by the way, these are in no order whatsoever, so it's just whichever one is closest to me on the table where I'm filming. And you all know this deck. If you watch my channel, you will know how much I love this deck, how much I use it when it comes to personal readings, when it comes to reading for clients, when it comes to pairings, when it comes to any kind of practice related to tarot and oracle. This is the Savvy Soul Tarot by Judy Whitelish. I am such a fan of this deck. I find it absolutely exceptional. It is one of those decks that the more you use it, the more it becomes familiar to you, the more you want to use it. And as a matter of fact, I've had it for a year and a half, I would say. It was a Kickstarter from 2022, yes, because we are in 2024. And each and every card has got such an interesting take on the essence, on the, you know, on the meaning of the card itself, and such an interesting way to portray that. So as you can see, it is a photographic deck. However, these photos have been worked on. There's a lot of collaging as well, and there's a bit of manipulation as well, because as you can notice, for example, there are let's say elements that are in gray or black and white, and there are backgrounds that are in color. This is very deliberate, because if you read the guidebook, you'll understand that that's what Julie meant. So she wants the characters, especially portrayed in these cards, to be complete, coming from like a clean slate. So gray is because she did not choose any kind of color, or she actually removed the color from the characters in order for you to be able, as a reader, to put your own, to let's say layer your own interpretation or your own feelings for these characters onto the characters themselves. The reason why this deck is, I just cannot put it down, is because it really feels like a perfect reader. I give out such on-point readings with this deck that it's just absolutely a joy to use it. But it's also because it feels really, really close to me. It feels like one of those decks that really tells me a story about myself. And that's something that I cannot say for many decks in my collection. And with the French and Italian decks that I got during my holiday, I have the pleasure to say that I have now 498 decks. So I'm very excited about, you know, which one will be deck 500. There's just one thing though, there's going to be a massive rehoming video that I'm going to release to my members first, and then it's going to be released to the general public. And the reason why I'm doing a massive rehoming is not because, you know, when I really need to be very careful of what I'm going to say right now, because I don't want to say that the decks that I'm rehoming are decks that I don't like. It's just that either I feel like I've worked and I finished my work with them, or I just don't vibe with them, but they are all fantastic. And the reason why it's going to be massive is because it's actually incorporated in 2 months, because I generally do one unboxing per month, but because in the month of February I was away, then this is going to be about February rehoming and January as well. But in any case, this is definitely not going anywhere. This is going to stay in my collection forever. Possibly if I could get a second copy, I would definitely take it. And this is the Savvy Soul Tarot. And the next deck is another tarot deck, and it's the Curious Travels Tarot deck by Arotsear. Now I have to say something. Someone sent me an email saying, "Look, it's actually still available, by the creator's website in the indie edition, but it's a bit weird. And if you have any news, please let me know, because what happened was that for those of you who backed a Kickstarter, I've heard from many of you that you were not too happy about the fact that you had been informed immediately after receiving the deck that this deck was going to go mass market. And it has been, if from my understanding, it has been picked up mass market, but there's absolutely no news about the release date. And in the meantime, because that was at least 2 years ago, but in the meantime, probably a couple of months ago, Arothea has actually put the deck, a reprint, I think, of the deck, another batch, available on their website for purchase, the indie edition. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that there's still no date when it comes to the mass market release. So I'm not entirely sure whether that means anything. If you do have news about it, please let me know, because I love this deck so much that I would love to snatch another copy, because I tend to use it a lot. Being part of the video of decks that I cannot put down no matter what. Obviously this deck has been seeing a lot of use, and I kind of see, I don't know if you can see through the camera, but it's these edges, they're fantastic. The product value is amazing. I'm not saying anything negative. I do tend to use this deck a lot, and I start to see the wearing in the edge, on the edges. So if I could actually get another copy of the indie edition, that would be great. But I'm not, and I never really reached out, put a in search of post on Facebook, for example, because I was always convinced, oh, okay, so there's going to be a mass market edition, and then all of a sudden there was an indie edition available again. But I didn't grab it because I don't know for what is reason, but it comes at a super expensive price, especially including the shipping cost to Australia. So I don't know. In any case, this is a fantastic deck. I use it all the time. I really, really cannot put it down. It's one of those decks that when you start using it, you find the reason why to use it. And even more so, you find the reason to look for it. You feel like you want to use it. Whether it's because it's aesthetically pleasing, whether it's because it's a really good reader, whether it's because, for example, it really resonates with you personally. And this is one of the reasons, actually. So the Curious Travels. I'm a traveler. There's no two ways around that. I made choices in my life. So to share something personal, when you're little and you have very specific dreams. Well, at least I did. I don't know if everyone does, but I had very specific dreams when I felt like I wasn't my happiest. And those dreams were the ones when I woke up, I was almost crying, but I was a mix of sadness and happiness, because I felt, like I wanted to travel. So the dreams were about me traveling, literally just looking at the map, planning the itinerary, traveling, seeing new things, meeting new people. And I felt so exhilarating. It was so amazing for me to acknowledge those feelings when I was waking up, because I yearn for that. I yearn for traveling. And I've been traveling all my life because my parents, before my mom got sick, used to travel everywhere. So I know all of the regions in Italy. I've been everywhere in Italy. I love it. It's a fantastic country. When I was 14, I started traveling overseas and I never stopped. And to this day, I count 84 countries. I visited 84 countries. There's about 216 to 220, but sometimes it drops to 260 to 214. It depends on, political developments and the countries, but there's around more than 200 countries in the world. And so I feel like I'm a novice, because 84, it's nothing. It's not even half. Seriously, come on, Sylvia, travel more. So I love exploring. I love going off the beaten track. I just love, interacting with the locals. I try and study all the languages of the countries I go to. It is part of who I am. Those dreams, when I was little, told me, since I practically could dream and remember my dreams, that what really makes me happy is traveling. And I know that it sounds, I don't know, childish? I have no idea. I don't know what it sounds like, but this is true. And I was very little when I started traveling and when I started having those dreams. And I'm not that little anymore, not that young anymore, and I still have those dreams. But now, when I wake up from those dreams, I actually feel just happiness and not sadness, because when I was little, I didn't know if I had the opportunity to travel. And now that I've traveled so much, I'm happy because it's a new adventure and it gives me the inspiration to look at different countries. And it's just something that I share with my husband. I believe we met traveling. So that was a given, you know, that we both loved it. And it's something that it really, whereas I'm very mutable when it comes to loving a thing, hating a thing, preferences and stuff like that, I go by, you know, sometimes even when it comes to food, sometimes I love Indian food, sometimes I go into a Korean phase, sometimes I go into a Vietnamese phase, sometimes we went to France and I was eating all the French food, you know, as if I depend, my life depended on it. So obviously I change a lot, but one thing that actually remains steady in my life is the appreciation for traveling. So, of course, it goes without saying that a deck that talks about curious travels had to be one of my favorites. But in this case, it's also one of those decks that I cannot put down no matter what. The next deck is actually an oracle. So this is a compendium of Witches Oracle by Natasha Ilincic. And it's a release by Lo Scarabeo. I think it was from last year. I have to say thank you, Lo Scarabeo, because this oracle has more than 33 cards, because usually that's what you get from Lo Scarabeo. Let me just have a look if it says something about that. It's got 60 cards and 176 pages color companion book. Amazing. Thank you, Lo Scarabeo. Really appreciate that. Most of the time they ask for, let's say in Australian dollars, something around $35 to $40 for a 33 deck, 33 cards oracle deck, which in my experience worldwide is actually rather expensive for such a thin deck. 60 cards, amazing, happy, thank you. Please, you know, keep on making them with so many cards. The reason why it's got so many cards is A, because it used to be an indie deck, so obviously it wasn't Lo Scarabeo dictating how many cards or, you know, just conceiving the project from the start. But it's also because it's composed of two decks, as you can clearly see by the different color in the background, or rather the absence of color in the background from this part of the deck. And as it says, it's a compendium of witches, so you've got these amazing cards related to, let's say, famous witches, but also archetypal witchery. They really go deep. When you go and have a look at the companion book, you understand why it's called a companion book rather than a guidebook, because there's so much more to the description of these cards than in other decks that you can find, for example. I love the artwork. Oh my goodness, some of these cards are so intense, and I have to say intense for me doesn't necessarily always refer to good, or rather, let me put it in a different way, because there's no bad intense. Intense is intense. What I mean to say with this is that intense can be beautiful, but it can also be haunting. Okay, so this is called the memory card. And let me tell you, this is one of the reasons why I cannot put this deck down. This deck triggers so many feelings in me, and it's just fantastic that it's the memory card, because memory that triggers so many feelings in you, especially when you reconcile them, when you they are reminded by probably a conflicting card. I don't know whether this feels conflicting to everyone. To me, it does. In a good way, though, because I feel right now in my life, and perhaps 3 years ago I wasn't, but right now I'm actually ready to confront myself with why I feel a certain way when looking at this specific card. So just to give you a different example, the Reconciler is a fantastic card, okay? It's beautiful, the aesthetics are beautiful, the color palette is beautiful, the meaning is beautiful, the key essence of the card, the reconciler. So obviously we look at the possibility to reconcile whatever it is in this dish that has been staying still, you know, like a stagnant water for a while, and now it needs to ascend to the stars and the moon and that kind of intuition. So in a witchy way, you can really work on this card. It can really be intense. It's not different from the memory card when it comes to you know, using the word intense. They are both intense cards. I will stop saying intense now. They are both really strong cards. However, I find that this one is more of a card that builds bridges. This one is more of a card that actually tears down bridges. Maybe those bridges were there to be torn down. Maybe those bridges had no reason to exist any longer for me, and that's the reason why I like working with this card and I like the way it makes me feel. It's not for everyone, and I don't mean to say that it's the right way to use it, nor do I say that it's the right way to feel. It's not for me to say something like that. It's impossible. Not even a psychiatrist with 50 years of experience could actually tell you how to feel about something. Please don't let anyone tell you how you should feel. What does that mean anyway? However, I am happy to share this because perhaps there's someone else who feels this way about that card. So strong. These cards instead are more, to me, they're more like a tool for reading. So obviously they're referring back to a little bit witchy elements. For example, it could be familiars, you know, it could be some tools, the sickle, for example, this stuff, the rest. It could be some stuff. It could be some symbols related to just the witchery world that we have seen in the previous part of the deck as well. They are very beautiful. They remind me a lot of a few other decks that have this kind of imprint, you know, that you can find on different publication as well. This one, for example, reminds me a lot of the Between the Worlds, I think that it was called, the deck by Monica Bodirski. With that was very specific though, because it was based on different methods of divination, such as, for example, you know, charm casting or bone throwing or other things. And I really believe that this is one of the many cards that you could find in that decks. Not specifically, not exactly the same, but it was referring back to a specific bone with teeth, which has a specific meaning. Now, I used to do a lot. Now, this year I've started, I probably let it go a little bit, but I used to do a lot of bone throwing. And the reason why I let it go a little bit is because I just realized how difficult it is to ethically source bones in Australia because of customs laws. Is very, very difficult, and it becomes very, very expensive to actually import original, you know, authentic and ethically sourced bones from overseas. And the ones that you can find in Australia are they're not complete. There's just not, I find, at least for my needs, they're not complete. And unfortunately, I used to have a fantastic set inherited by my auntie, and I could not bring it to Australia because of that. Now, I was in Paris, just as a short story. I was in Paris and I was in one of the markets, the flea markets, and there was this lady that was collecting curiosities, and she had many bones, and I really wanted to buy all of them. And so together we actually sat down, we read everything that is in the website for the rules and regulations of customs in Australia. I can assure you that even though it says that you can bring bones. You need to provide certificates of provenance. You need to make sure 1,000,000% that there's absolutely no residue. And by residue, I mean any kind of residue. So even if there's a little bit of dust on the bone, it will be considered, how should I say, contaminated? I don't know, or possibly contaminated, let's put it this way. It will be taken away from you at customs if you declare it. If you don't declare it and they find it, it's a massive, and I mean massive fine. But even if you declare it and they take it away, they actually charge you for the disposal of the item. So it's up to you. If you live in Australia, please familiarize yourself with the rules, because they're very serious about it. Very, very serious about it. Anyway, this is the Companion, a Companion of Witches Oracle, and it's one of those decks that I cannot put down because it gives you so, in my case, it gives me so many feelings, and I really absolutely love it. And the next deck is a bit of a given because I talk about this deck so much that, of course, you know this would have been in this video. This is the Soul Mirror Oracle See Yourself by Sunshine Connolly, and the artwork is by Anna Novis. This deck is absolutely fantastic. I cannot put it down because I actually use it a lot. I use it in kind of 2 or 3 different ways, and I just wanted to show you how beautiful it is when you actually pair it up with the Ephemera Tarot, which is another deck that I cannot put down. Now, just a disclaimer, look, this deck, so I got in touch with Sunshine. She was so lovely to me. She was appreciative of the fact that I talk about this deck in my channel so much, and she was really a sweetheart, and she sent me an additional deck and 2 journals. So one journal I will keep it for myself, but I'm actually doing a giveaway with 1 copy of a wrapped up deck, the Soul Mirror Oracle and the Soul Mirror Journal. They are both Blue Angel publications. I believe that this deck is becoming hard to find, by the way, and I am not entirely sure that the Soul Mirror Journal is available to US Amazon. So the giveaway could actually be quite interesting for those of you in the US as well. So the giveaway is open to anyone who's 18 plus of age and anyone who resides in a country where I can legally ship to from Australia, no matter what the costs are. I'm okay with the cost. I know that it's going to be a lot of money, but I'm happy to be able to give you the possibility to enter this giveaway. So I decided the easiest way for me to keep track of everyone that is commenting on that wants to enter this giveaway is to put a comment in the video in which I announce the giveaway. So what I will do, I will actually put in the comments below, I will put a link to that video. And if you can please, it's only open to my subscribers, so if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel so you will have the opportunity to enter the giveaway. And in the comments, you need to let me know why you like the Soul Mirror Oracle. Not in the comments of this video, please understand, not in the comment of these videos, because I will not consider them. And the reason why is because it's just a lot easier for me to look at all of the comments on the original video. So you will be able to find that video, if you haven't watched it already, in the comments below of this one. I know it's a bit confusing. What I will do, I will also do a public post. So there's 3 ways for you to access the giveaway. 1, watching this video and clicking on my comment, which I will pin in the comment section, and put a comment on the original announcement video, or you know, you've done that already because you've already watched the announcement video, or you will see about it, you will hear about it when you look at my community tab. If you're a member of my channel, I will also talk about it with my members in one of my future videos. The giveaway is actually active until mid-March, so you have a couple of weeks in order to be able to enter it. Now, I wanted to say that it's absolutely beautiful when you pair it up with the Ephemera Tarot. And usually I pair it up with the True Black Tarot as well, which is by the same author as the Ephemera, which is Arthur Wang. And I'm just showing you this one for now, but if you are familiar with the True Black, you will know what I mean by perfect match. And generally speaking, the reason why I like these kind of pairings is because the Soul Mirror Oracle, as you will know if you have it, is one of those decks that actually gives you in one card, in the same card. I love one of the comments, one of your comments. It was one of my subscribers. I don't remember who it was. I'm so sorry about that. I'm not the kind of person that usually says, oh, you know, I've seen it in one channel. I don't remember whose it was. I normally actually give credit. But I honestly, I really struggle still from my jet lag, because we only got back yesterday morning. And it's been terrible. After 1 month spent in a completely different time zone and completely different weather, we went from possibly -2 degrees to 43 Celsius. So tomorrow in Sydney, Australia is going to be 43 degrees Celsius. And I spent a month in an area where there were around from the extreme of -5 in Korea to say -2 in Ireland, to maybe 4 or 5 degrees in Italy. So I can assure you it's, I don't know whether it's because we spent such a long time in that time zone, but it's really hard for me this time to get rid of the jet lag. So one of you made a fantastic comment saying that they felt like they were actually forced to confront themselves with both the aspects, the shadow aspect and the light aspect of this deck. And I love that. I know that the verb to force is a strong one, obviously, but that's it, it's meant to be. And in some cases, it's actually really doing a lot of good, because it does not allow us to actually step away from something. And if we feel that we don't need to confront ourselves with both the shadow and the light aspect of a card, we still have to go through it, because this deck, it's exactly what this deck does. And it's just absolutely amazing. I really, really cannot put it down. Same goes for the Emojis Tarot. It's just such a beautiful deck. I mean, the aesthetics of it. And I remember talking with some of you, talking about the fact that, yes, the figures are perfect. Let's say picture perfect. I don't want to say beautiful, because beautiful is a different concept. But these are picture perfect. And I actually believe that these don't look like human beings to me. They look like archetype of humans. And as such, it's okay for them to be picture perfect. I don't know if it makes sense, but I have found a way to reconcile myself with the fact that 99% of the population do not look like that. This deck has more human kind of looks. This one does not. But then again, in this case, for the crescendo card, for example, I mean, this face is not human anyway, and there's horns, obviously. So I don't know where to draw the line. And since I was trying to draw the line, at a certain point, I just understood that I didn't need to. Okay, so pairing them up works in the same way, because it tells me that what I'm looking at is not necessarily something that needs to resonate with how I look or how my friends or family or someone around me looks, but the concept of their essences. So I hope that I made that clear, and I'm open to discussing this concept. There are a couple of decks that do have that kind of feature. Another one that comes to mind is the Mythos Tarot, which is really picture perfect, and it lacks in diversity just as much as this deck could be seen as lacking in diversity. However, I really need to say that normally that would be an issue. In this case, I feel that there's a reason for that. By the way, sorry, I stopped flipping the cards because I really want to point out how beautiful the echo between these two cards is. It's absolutely fantastic, and also the directionality of both of them. So these two decks really unputdownable, if that's even a word. If it's not, bear with me, you understand what I mean. And this one is the Soul Mirror Oracle, and this is the Emojis Tarot. The next deck that I can't put down started because of my channel, let's say, and then it became such a beautiful deck to have around me and always look at, that, you know, it just became one of those decks truly by itself. And I'm talking about the Yokai Yochi Tarot by Bubba Plague. Now, the reason why I've picked this deck up out of, you know, all of my shelves was because in February, the 1st of February, we actually started with my members, my Sunlight and Starlight members. We started a new series which is called Down the Rabbit Hole, and it's actually a study of a very specific deck. It takes about 2.5 months. And we're really in the heart of it right now. And what I do, I publish these videos for my members in which we look at the cards and we study the meaning of the cards related to the images that are present in the cards themselves. And then we have this kind of conversation on, for example, the private Facebook group or on the comments of the videos themselves about these cards. The reason why this is a very unique deck for me, and it's, you know, it was chosen as the first deck that we wanted to study with my members, is because it is related to something that is really booming lately. I would say mostly in Europe, for what I could see, but probably also in other countries as well. And it's the Japan, I call it the Japan mania. Okay, the Japan mania, that in this case, because we're looking at yokai, is referring back to Japan supernatural, which is my personal obsession. I am literally obsessed with everything that is supernatural and Japanese in origin. And what we're doing is we're even creating our own Hyaku Monogatari Kaidan Kai desu. So if you're not familiar with what that is the Night of 100 Ghost Tales. So it's a very popular tradition in Japan to have this festival in which you have 100 candle lights, let's say, and each and every one of the participants, they have to tell a ghost story or a scary story. And the protagonists of the story most of the time are actually yokai. So yokai could be translated as a supernatural being that you can find the origins of in the Japanese tradition. And so for each and every tale that is told, the person that tells the story has to extinguish the light of each and every one of the candle. So you obviously get scarier and it gets scarier and scarier because, you know, with less light and in the middle of the night, because time goes on, you know, you will find yourself at 4 a.m. in the morning, almost pitch dark, hearing these stories about these really scary beings. And obviously, it's, you know, you'll become very afraid. And that's the meaning of it all. And there's some darker kind of aspect to the story. The tradition wants that, you know, at the end of 100 tales, you would actually evoke one of the yokais. But there's a lot of tradition related to the fact that when it's done in a festival, you actually skip that step because you wouldn't want to confront yourself with an actual supernatural being, let's face it. But in any case, what we're going to do with my members is the ones of us that love writing. For example, I'm posting on Facebook and on the community tab, I'm posting parts of unfinished yokai stories that I found in one of the many books that I bought about the yokai. And so I invite the writers to write their own ending to that specific story, or I'm also inviting the artist in between my members to reproduce one of the yokais. And at the end of the study of the deck, I'm going to post a video in which I'm going to show at least what I've been doing, and obviously if others want to join in, you know, I'm going to post whatever they've been doing in their own personal practice. This is a deck that, as I said, the reason why I started looking at it every day was because of my membership programs, but now it's become such a beautiful daily ritual that, you know, even when we will end the study, down the rabbit hole about this deck, I will probably still keep on picking it up because it's just absolutely fantastic and gorgeous. The next deck that I really cannot put down is a very recent acquisition, and I'm not entirely sure that it's available in Australia, so my apologies if it's not. It has been available in the US for a few months already. It has been available in Europe for a few months already. If you're Australian or South American, you know the drill. You will get it eventually. It's just the eventually that is very unnerving, but I know the feeling. It's one of the first decks that I bought when I landed, literally when the plane touched down in Rome. I was like on Amazon Italy already ordering it, because I really I really thought that, you know, I would have fallen in love with this deck, and I actually did. So you will be familiar with this deck whether you have it or not because of the artwork. It is by Julia Jeffrey, and Julia is also the author of the Tarot of the Hidden Realm, which is not new. It's been out for a few years. So this is a new deck by Julia Jeffrey. It's always by Llewellyn, which was the publisher also of the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. And as always for Llewellyn, it comes to, you know, how beautiful, interesting, deep and fantastic the guidebook is. And because honestly, these images, a full page of them, I don't know, but sometimes I feel like buying a second copy, you know, cutting out all of these images and just framing them because they're just so beautiful. In particular, the Ancient Starlight, which is obviously the star card, which is my favorite card because it's the Aquarius card. It's just absolutely wonderful, and I really, really love it. This deck has become unputdownable. If it's not a word, I'll probably sound silly. So let's say I cannot put this deck down because, first of all, I actually have seen a few pairings in a couple of channels, in specific the ones by Sharon at Trio of Witches Tarot. They are just absolutely superb. And I think that it works really, really well with many of the oracle decks that are already in my collection. But it also makes me want to buy different decks as well. And that's one of the tell signs that I really, really like a deck. Now, what I'm going to do, because one of the decks I really love to pair with, I've already shown it in this video, I'm just going to recuperate that deck, which is the Companion of Witches Tarot, which is indeed one of the decks Sharon uses in her video. And I'm going to show you how beautiful, really gorgeous this pairing is. And that's, you know, when I cannot put down a deck, it becomes one of the reasons why, you know, it makes it to videos where I talk about the top 10, for example, my favorites, or, you know, my favorite pairings and so on and so forth. Because obviously pairing up Oracle and Tarot decks is part of my practice. It's been part of my practice for the good part of 10 years, if not longer. Ever since, probably even 15 years, let's put it this way, ever since I started buying Oracle decks, which admittedly I've started really late in my practice because I have started reading Tarot officially now is 36 years ago, oh my goodness, okay, whew. So I started reading Tarot and buying Tarot 36 years ago, but I only started buying Oracle decks probably 17 years ago. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't pin it down. It wasn't a birthday or a specific date that I could remember, so I don't know. But look at these two together. Isn't it just fantastic? I mean, we got a very similar color palette. Obviously, the theme is very similar because we're talking about a very witchy kind of deck. Both of them are very witchy. I love the fact that even the artwork is very similar. Now, I forgot to say, but Natasha is actually the artist behind the Tarot of the Witch's Garden, I believe it's called, which I don't have because I'm trying to wait for them to fix all the production issues. A friend of mine in the tarot community has received a deck first with the numbers swapped, you know, the Wheel of Fortune, I think it was number 11 instead of number 10, and vice versa with the Justice card. And then she asked for a replacement to Llewellyn. They sent it promptly, but what happened was that I think it was cut off, it was not centered. I think that was the problem. And so she ended up with two decks, and none of which actually was usable. And I myself have OCD, and I can assure you 1000%. I know that it sounds like we're probably overreacting to something, but no, it's very, it makes us feel very confused, but also it's a very unpleasant kind of feeling of not completeness, of something that is out of order. It's very unpleasant. And so I completely understand that she was very put down by what happened. My goodness, look at this. Look at the memory card. Talked about the memory card and how strong that is for me, how intense that is for me. And we find it between the Witcher trees and the land card. How amazing. There is the same use of the hand, but we look at the figures, we look at what the meaning of the cards is, and we understand how we can go from this fiery confrontation, because this is a fiery and airy confrontation in memory, because it interests your body, because the body, there's no two ways around that. The body keeps the score of your trauma. If you don't believe that, please familiarize yourself with the concept that your body retains the imprint of any kind of trauma. Even if it was psychological traumas, you will see the effect of them in your body. So obviously trees is the suit of wands, the fiery suit. So we see this progression, triggered by the memory. So we are forced to confront ourselves with the memory in our body of this trauma. But we go through that when we face it, we go through that and we achieve this completion of the world. I just love these two so much. Honestly, I cannot put them down. There are other oracle decks that I like to use, and I highly recommend watching Sharon's video about the pairings with this deck, because there's a few pearls in that. But I prefer, this one is my favorite, and I really use it every day. It's just absolutely fantastic. So both of them unputdownable decks. Okay, so we have 3 decks left, and the next one is actually a deck that made it to my top decks for 2024 video, and it's the Liberation Tarot. I have to say something though, after I posted that video, because I really do believe that this is going to be one of my top decks for 2024, at least when it comes to usage, study, and all of these things related to the deck. I have to say something though, I actually learned that this deck, immediately after the Kickstarter, has been made available for purchase on Amazon. And that really confused me, because, well, I guess there's no rule that says a Kickstarter can't go immediately into Amazon. I guess, I don't know what I was expecting. I probably thought that because it had all the hype, this is going to be the new collective tarot, this is a collaboration, it's fantastic tarot. I thought that, it was going to be not necessarily hard to find, but at least that it would have been kept at a certain, I don't know. I don't even know what I want to say, because I don't want to sound bitter. I don't want to sound bitter, because at the end of the day, I'm not. I mean, I'm actually happy that it's available on Amazon, and I cannot for the life of me understand whether it's a true legitimate listing, or it's a listing just for the book. Perhaps it's a listing just for the book, but it does say in the description, it talks about the cards as well. I don't know whether it's just put there and it will be made available in the future. I have no idea. If you know something, please let me know. In any case, this deck was a very recent Kickstarter. I received it probably in December, I'm not entirely sure, but it was before the end of the year. It's one of those decks that it is truly one of the decks that you say, I normally don't like these kind of decks, but this is the exception to the rule. So I normally not too keen on collaboration decks, because I need that kind of cohesiveness when it comes to the artwork. See the OCD revelation that I gave earlier. However, this deck, it is a bit of an exception. Now, you will notice that it's in order, not because it is still in order, because I've actually used this deck many times, but what I do, and I think I've explained this before, it actually helps me to familiarize myself more with the cards on a collaboration decks if I, after each and every use, if I put it back in order. Because it gives me the possibility to look at the cards without having to you know, remind myself of what that card is. There's a lot of major arcana that have been renamed, as you can see, the mutant, etc., the shadow, the chaos, the star is still the star, the moon is still the moon, etc. But I like, it's one of the practices that I relate to using tarot. Putting the decks back in order is something that I love doing. It's a really beautiful deck. It's an interesting deck, as you can see. Of course, it's a collaborative deck. It counts the collaboration of many artists. And of course, they have their different art style. And in many cases, you will see it's a collage. In other cases, it's an actual drawing. A photographic deck, not a photographic deck. It doesn't matter. What feels like it's a really important, let's put it this deck, in my collection and overall for the tarot community is the, let's say, the deck itself, but also the guidebook. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, first of all, it's really well made. I would have preferred a larger font, but that's just my aging eyes. So we've got a very interesting, let's say, one page for each and every card, even when it comes to the minors, which is something that I really appreciate and being thankful for. Then we've been told who the art is by. So in this case, for the Ancestors card, is by Cassie Thornton. And then there's the description of the card, and then there's a bit of a description also related to the meaning of the card. Queer, your inheritance, it remains our responsibility to interpret the lives of our parents, so talking about the ancestors, and of our parents' parents. Open the gates of ancestral intuition. History is an oceanic vault, throbbing with life. What I think that sets this deck aside apart from other decks is that you've got, for further incantation, see Alexis Polygam's poem, Commitment, in that funding ceremony. So for each and every one of the majors, you actually being given the possibility to do some research or even enjoy the card and the artwork with different media, let's put it this way. But I really like that. I like the possibility, and that's one of the reasons why I actually love the next deck. It's also one of the decks that I cannot put down. But let's finish talking about this one first. So we've got these really beautiful cards. It's a fantastic cardstock. I think they really made giant leap forwards when it comes to finding the right, you know, it's the right middle between a silky kind of matte and a rose petal finish. I remember when Rose Petal was at the very beginning and many of the decks had the cards completely sticking, glued to one to the other, which made it impossible to use. Now I think they really mastered the art of, you know, they're still very silky, so the tactile feel is very interesting, very positive, but you can have absolutely no problems, you know, shuffling the deck and fanning it out, etc. So as you can see, it's actually a very rewarding experience. You can also, of course, riffle shuffle and bridge shuffle if that's your thing. But I really want to say they've got a long way between the rose petal that was really sticking. You couldn't even do like this. You couldn't even fan the deck out in your hands. So this is one of the decks that I really cannot put down this year, and it's the Liberation Tarot. So the next deck, as I anticipated before, is one of those decks that I cannot put down because there's the offer of an additional layer to use while using the deck. And it's the Penumbra Tarot. Evoke the liminal space, created by Aries Elizabeth. Guidebook is by our beloved Anthony with Aries Elizabeth. Now, this deck has been sent by Anthony to me for review, but I have to be honest, it was in my wish list already. So when she sent me an email reaching out and asking if I was interested, I was like, yeah, okay, sure, of course. I'm not gonna say no to that because I really wanted to acquire this deck anyway. And it's one of those decks that has got a really fantastic book. I love everything about it, and it's also really nice when it comes to the production value because I really enjoy this kind of, you know, like a chest opening or book, let's say, opening, wrap around magnetic closure kind of box. But I also really, really love the gilding, and you know, you have this kind of really beautiful foil on the back of the cards. I don't know if I move the cards like that, you probably see it. It's very beautiful. It's like a rose or orangey kind of gold, which is very unique as a color, and it's the same color for the gilding, which is very, very nice as well. Very high quality, I have to say. You can find this deck on Amazon. So for all of these decks, where I can actually you know, find and put the link, I will in the description box below. And you know, you have a few. So this is a borderless deck. I love the colors. They're just really amazing. The artwork is fantastic, but what I really love about this deck, as I anticipated earlier, is the fact that when you look at the guidebook, which is very chunky, very easy to use, by the way. Didn't break the spine, even though I am using it a lot. I didn't break the spine, which actually makes me very happy, because I love books, and I know that it's a sign of love when you break the spine, but to be honest with you, I always try not to. So the reason why I love this deck is because in the guidebook it actually gives you a lot of information. So this one is, for example, the 8 of Cups. Well, there you go. So you've got the image, obviously, then you've got the let's say the meaning of the card is called Legacy. Then you do have an insight about the reversed meaning of the card. So when you pull it reversed, if you shuffle reversed, or if you feel like you should read the card in reverse. By the way, one thing that we're doing with our members is also an advanced tarot reader course, in which we're actually trying to step away from the stigma about reversals, because I believe that reversals kind of have a stigma right now. I don't know why. There was a period of time in which everyone was reading with reversals, and now no one is. I read reversals. I don't shuffle reversals. I believe that there's a really major, huge difference. I don't look for reversals, but when a card presents itself that clearly has the reverse meaning to it, then I read it as if it were reversed. There you go. In any case, that is very personal. There's, you know, I don't know how many tarot readers there are in the world, but many. And as many tarot readers as there are, you will probably have as many different opinions about that. However, what I wanted to talk about is, you know, when it comes to Erin's notes. So you got the apogee and the perigee. For the 8 of Cups, let's just have a read, because I prefer to show rather than tell. Apogee, your pilgrimage took you to the crossroads, and there you have poured an offering: ink, blood, wine, tea, tears. It is time to walk away and not look back. This card represents she who takes your offering after you have gone. How beautiful is that? This card represents she who takes your offering after you have gone. Because we never think about that, do we? When we look at the 8 of Cups, we have all the normal keywords that come to mind, you know, leaving something behind that is broken, etc. Do we ever stop and think about what happens when we leave? Not necessarily. I believe that we should actually, and this deck actually, this book in specific, gave me the idea for, you know, one of the healing step-by-step videos that I'm doing with my Starlight members, because in many cages we're talking about how to leave a cage and how to leave it in such a way that we understand why we're doing it without making it traumatic for whomever is that is left behind. This actually is something that gave me an idea to expand on that concept. So we're not leaving emptiness behind, we're leaving something, we're leaving someone. So then we go with the perigee in the 8s. There is movement, moving on, away or forward, but something is always left behind. The crossroads are places of liminality because of their transitional nature. One direction switches to another, a choice is made to stay the course or deviate. Because of their location being in neither one place or the next, in ancient times, the crossroads were also a location of refuse or pollution, the local garbage dump. Sometimes an offer is not something pure or clean, it is simply what is left after all is done, or when you are done with what is left. It's so beautiful, it sounds almost lyrical. And what I appreciate even more is that you actually have been given the possibility to focus on a song. So in this case, it's Between Earth and Sky, but Ri's Obsession. I love this. I love this because it gives you the possibility to work, to stay with the cards, stay with the deck, work with it, find different ways to, renew, rekindle that passion that you've got for your decks, but also for your practice. So we've talked a lot, we've seen a lot of video of people talking about when they experience tarot burnout or overwhelmed. In this case, I look for these kind of things in a deck. When a deck gives you the possibility to look at the card in specific, or also the whole deck with a different set of eyes, that's a win-win situation for me. So this is one of the decks that I cannot put down because of that, and of course it's actually pleasing aesthetically. I love the colors, as I was saying before. The product value is exceptional. It's one of those papery cards that when you do like this, the friction actually makes a really lovely sound. So the auditorial experience is just as good as the tactile one, which is very, very important when it comes to memorizing the cards, for example, visualizing the concept. This is the Eight of Cups we've talked about. So you understand the meaning of leaving, which is right for you at that time, but also remembering that you're actually leaving someone or something behind. I love that. It's true, but it's not just true. It's actually enlightening, I believe. So one of the decks I really cannot put down, the Penumbra Tarot. And last but not least, what have we got here? So we are talking about the Tarot Pop Culture by Bérengère de Moncy. This is a French deck published by Hachette. I just cannot get over how much in love I am with this deck. Honestly, it surprised me, like it was really a shock. I knew from some of the photos that I had seen on Amazon France, for example, that I would have liked it. But liking is not enough. This is just a deck that I completely adore, and it may have to do with the fact that there's a lot of representation of references to Keanu Reeves movies. Maybe, probably, likely, but it's not just that. I mean, this is one of the decks in which even, so the majors are just fantastic, okay? Fantastic. The references to pop cultures are very direct, very easy to recognize, and in the guidebook it explains everything, so I love that. But also when it comes to the minors, I really was worried about it because they look a bit peepish rather than cynic. I can assure you that yes, they are peepish. I'm not saying they're not, but the references are just as spot on as the majors, and that's what you want. And the alethiometer, for example, so if you're familiar with the trilogy by Philip Pullman, His Dark Materials, you will remember this because it's the instrument that Lyra uses every time that she needs to understand what's going on. She looks in the past, she looks into the future. It's absolutely fantastic, and it makes me so envious that she's got this one. So I tried many times to make my own instrument, but I never really succeeded. In any case, I assure you this deck is amazing. I've used it for readings. It reads really, really well. I've used it for readings for my subscribers, my members, sorry. I think that they've done a fantastic job. I love the book. I love the aesthetics of it, love the color, love the references. Look at this, of course you got, and you know, because it says here, it's in French obviously, Trésor de Willy Le Borgne, and I remember the name in French, I remember the name in Italian, and I couldn't remember the name in English. It's actually One-Eyed Willy. So it's actually called One-Eyed Willy. And you know, you got Sailor Moon, you got the DeLorean from Back to the Future. I mean, come on, it's just absolutely fantastic. But as I was saying, it's got so many references to Keanu Reeves. There's references from Constantine, there's references from John Wick. I mean, come on, John Wick is the Baba Yaga. I really don't understand why people don't make a Baba Yaga deck with John Wick, or a John Wick deck directly. You've got the Matrix here, which is great. So Constantine, as I said before, I love this deck. I really love it. There are no other words for it. Hello, John Wick. For the Death card. Wow. I mean, okay. I'm just gonna stop myself because I know that I'm gushing, but there's nothing I can do about it. And if you haven't watched, I think it's on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix production. It's called Death Note. Absolutely fantastic. If you haven't watched it, it's great. I really enjoy this. Harry Potter, you know, there's the Lord of the Rings with Aragorn, and also Gandalf, you know, there's Sleepy Hollow. How much I love this deck. It's just unbelievable. Every time I use it, it's just a little bit awkward to use because, as you can see, it's even taller than my hand. So yeah, I mean, but it makes me appreciate the cards even more because I can see more of the artwork. So I love it the way it is. I wouldn't change it for anything. So that was the last one, and thanks so much for being with me till the end of this video. More to come. Have a great day.